into that opening corner, that tightening area as the grid marshals now leave. The whistles are blown. They will go out now for one lap, and then when they come up they'll line up, and then we'll be underway properly. This is the pole position man, Vitaly Petrov. And if you watched our coverage of the racing from Monza, you'll remember that Petrov was really having a great dice with Hulkenberg right up until the point where it all went a bit wrong. He ran off track, and that was it. The first race, the feature race, the race we have on Saturday, 39 laps in this race, and they have to make a pit stop where they have to change at least 2 tyres. Tomorrow's race is a sprint race, and that's flat out. And I would wager, Gareth, that for the sprint race it's going to be quite a bit of damage out there, and brave people. End of the season, championships decided, nothing to worry about. Go for it.
Yeah, there's also a factor that we perhaps haven't considered. This weekend they're using the soft compound of rubber. Now we've seen elsewhere where they've used that, but generally they keep it for tighter and twistier tracks like this one. In qualifying, the teams have commented that actually the rubber is going off pretty quickly, and I think, you know, today it'll be an issue, but there obviously is a compulsory pit stop. Tomorrow, no compulsory pit stop.
Sorry, Gareth, is this rain we're seeing here on
Could be the cloud. The clouds, as you see, is very grey. It could just be some fluid. Obviously, start of the race, they top the cards up to the max with the fluid, so it could just be fluid from the car in front. But the clouds are pretty grey, aren't they?
Absolutely.
But with the soft compound of tyre in tomorrow's race, where there's no pit stop, come the last third of the race, these guys are really going to be struggling for grip. And if we stay on board now with Petrov, you'll see what a technical tight circuit it is, and how important it is to have good grip from the tyres. This
is the corner into the last third section of the track. They go left uphill. If you've driven Coppice at Cadwell Park, that first turn, you'll know exactly what it's like, because the owner of this track has borrowed certain geometries and styling points from famous British circuits, so it's just like Coppice at Cadwell Park. He was going up there before he turns right and drops down the hill, and that really is a huge dip, drop, compressions all over this place. It's certainly not going to be easy for Petrov, who will be looking to get away ahead of Kloss. Behind him, though, Niko Hulkenberg, the new champion. And Gareth, we'll get to this later on throughout the afternoon that we've got here on British Eurosport, but Hulkenberg, a big favourite for a good Formula 1 drive next year.
Yeah, it has to be, doesn't he? I mean, he's done such a good job this year in winning the GP2 series, on the back of winning the F3 Euro Series last year. So he has a pedigree of drivers like Lewis Hamilton, Nico Rosberg. They're championship winners, everything they do. So he certainly deserves a good seat. He's been linked with the Williams F1 drive. I hope it comes off for him, because it'll be good to see what a job he makes in F1.
We have had Sam Michael talking about that reportedly to the press from the Williams concern, saying that Hulkenberg would be a very viable prospect for the future. Let's hope he does make that. Let's hope as well guys like maybe Vitaly Petrov, okay, maybe he's too old now, but there is a chance perhaps that he can find his way on there in one of the new teams under the new regulations that are coming in. So Gareth, they're forming up now. They're coming up to get some heat in the tyres, spinning the cars a little bit, lining up on the grid. That's Petrov ahead of Kloss. We can see there Hulkenberg just behind, kicking the back end of his car out there. What's going through the driver's mind at this point?
Well, the difficulty for the front guys, and it always happens in GP2, they just seem to take such a long time, this Petrov's team down the pit wall, just such a long time to line up. So guys like Petrov and Kloss at the front, going to wait what seems like an age to want to get the race started. You look in the mirrors thinking, what on earth's taking so long? You can see here, we've been sat there for 5 seconds already. No sign of the job being completed yet. So most guys take the car out of gear, leave it in neutral. Some leave it in gear, so you sat there with your kind of clutch pulled in, ready to go.
Here we go then, we're lining up for the first of the 2 races from Portimao in the final round of the GP2 series. Vitaly Petrov is in pole position. Looks like he's already staking his claim by pointing it on the inside line of the right-hand corner that they're going to come to. They'll go along the start-finish straight, have a huge drop-off before they dive in. We'll just wait and see. The film rolls around on the onboard camera. It doesn't look like there are any spots of rain, so perhaps we're right, that was some fluid or something coming out of one of the cars ahead. Let's hope the rain clouds stay away then. This race from Portimao. Wait for the lights to go on, then they'll drop off and we'll be away. Oh, great start there from Hulkenberg. Hulkenberg, brilliant start off the top there. Kloss looks like he's already been dropped back. That's De Grazia as well. Hulkenberg and Vitaly Petrov. So the 2 guys, massive lock-up on the outside. As you said, Gareth, huge problems there for the drivers getting in. 24 can't go. There's a spinner down there at the back. Tough all round.
Yeah, it's one of the Supernova cars and one of the DPR cars, I think. Like they've tangled.
More people in the dirt as well behind, further down like that, but up front it's Vitaly Petrov with Hulkenberg just behind him. So the drivers who were battling it out for the championship continue. The situation is normal. Kloss is in third.
That was unusual, wasn't it? There's Hulkenberg going for it. That's the one place on the track you can overtake. He's down into the left-hander, and Petrov had that covered. But unusual to sit on board with the car as the lights go out. It was, and Hulkenberg got a great start away from the line.
Hulkenberg absolutely drive around the outside of Kloss as they were going into that first corner. A corner that favours the brave. Hulkenberg then right up behind Vitaly Petrov. The Russian money man is leading this championship. That is rain coming down. I will put money on that, Gareth. That looks like rain coming down here at Portimao. If that's the case, it's going to turn into a nightmare for them. They head on up now to a fast right-hander. This is downhill. You have to have the car perfectly set up for it before you drop down. You can see it there. Yet the cameras don't do the elevation justice. It's hard to walk up that, let alone drive down it. That corner is Craig Jones' corner.
A couple of guys kicking up the dirt there. I think at the back of the field it was Via and Mortara who tangled. Looks like they both got going again, I think, but they were the two cars we saw spin at the back.
Mortara having a nightmare. Didn't have a great race in Monza, and now he's gone out here and just been caught up in that. But fortune favours the brave, as they say, and it certainly is there. Well, safety car is out.
Yeah.
We can assume that's probably for the clearing away of some debris as they were coming across. So Petrov it is who leads from Hulkenberg, and then De Grassi, Rodriguez and Kloss. So the safety car is out. It'll allow them all to bunch up. We didn't get too many laps under our belt before it happened, and I would venture that's the reason why. That's Mortara's car there in the pits there, and he'll need some attention. Looks like the driver's out perfectly okay, should be okay after a spin like that. No problems there, so he's out, but you can't leave a car obviously for safety reasons on the outside of such a difficult corner as well.
Yeah, I mean, on an F1 weekend you'd have cranes positioned around the circuit to lift cars away. Obviously non-F1 weekend this weekend, so haven't got that luxury. Going to be towed away like the old days.
You make a good point there. This is the only standalone race in the GP2 series this year. The rest of the time they have been out in action as part of the support class for the F1. Not the case here, so these guys are really top of the bill here in Portimao. And well, there is Mortara. He hadn't got out of the car. He has now though, and he will make a move whilst the interesting pace cars and circuit vehicles alongside him. You don't often see pace cars like that.
Doesn't seem to be an awful lot of urgency going on, does there, really? Oh, that's one of the ocean cars, isn't it?
That's not Parent. It's Chandok.
Oh, okay,
right. Well, let's talk about Parent, because he started the race down in 24th last place of the grid, as we talked about, because of that gearbox failure in qualifying. In the melee, he made his way up to 14th overall. So he's had quite a tidy first lap or two there, Gareth.
Yeah, he has. I mean, that first turn, as I said before, it lends itself, and here's a replay of the start. Super start from Hulkenberg. You see him get really hooked up well. Goes for the gap between the two front row drivers. Not quite close enough to Petrov to have a look, but certainly close enough to cover himself. At the back, we can see loads of locking up. And somewhere amongst that, like you see Mortara and Via, there they go, tangle on the apex of the first turn. A couple of cars go down the escape road. And it was always going to happen, wasn't it? Via just runs over Mortara just for good measure.
So tight into there, so tricky.
I mean, pick the bones out of that. You can't really see who's who. I think Mortara actually straight lined the corner, didn't he? Locked up and just tagged Via. And Via drives over Mortara's front wing to say,
thank you very much.
Thanks very much, yeah.
Well, added grip is always a bonus wherever you can find it out there. This is Parent's car, just...
I think Chandok blowing up.
The brain said Parent, the mouth said Chandok. But that's it, Chandok's car then pulling over. Terminal for him in this race. That's it, game over, as we've seen. Interesting from the start though, Gareth, to see De Grassi come around the outside of Kloss on the fat burner racing cars, 1-2 there, reversing their position on the grid. Not good for Kloss.
No, I mean, I'm not entirely surprised. It was his first race all season that he's managed to haul the car up to the very front of the grid. Done a good job, and he only just missed pole by a whisker, 500ths of a second, I think. But I'm not surprised. De Grassi is a pretty good driver, pretty good racing driver, shall I say. Kloss has got himself involved in some silly incidents this year, so I'm not surprised to see him slip backwards a little bit.
We saw him tangle in Monza. And was the subject of a quite controversial incident. So take us through this from
Hulkenberg just got off the line just so well, and Kloss was struggling with wheel spin. Petrov got just a good enough start to keep himself in the lead. Tipped her around the first turn, and he's away. And obviously further around the lap we see Hulkenberg have a little bit of a nibble. Let's hope we stay on board. You see the cold tyres there, the car just getting out of shape.
So much work Hulkenberg's having to put in, as indeed Petrov will be as well, but so much work, so much correction with the wheel as he's coming around into that first right-hander. Of course, as you said, the tyres will be cold. The track looks like it's quite slippery, and they're struggling to get.
I can't believe that they're taking so much
this amount of time to get Mortara's car
absolutely ridiculous.
Still away.
But looking at Petrov there, he was on the defensive when he didn't need to be there. We saw on the opening lap, Hulkenberg had a good look at him into that left-hander behind the pits. I think what caused that was Petrov was so tight and so defensive into the right-hand hairpin before that straight. He compromised his speed onto the straight. Didn't need to do that. Hulkenberg wasn't quite close enough for he had to have a look at him. And Petrov, I think, will have one eye on the mirrors, one eye on the road, and should have been looking up the road rather than back down the road.
Sure, and that part there where you talk about that part of the track, you come out of the right, and then it's a build uphill, and you've got that sweeping left, but it's all uphill. So momentum is absolutely vital through that part.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a steep hill after that turn, isn't it?
Okay, where we go with Di Grassi, that's Kloss in front of him.
Kloss just gets that wheel spin. It just costs him those two places there.
And from this point of view, we'll see Hulkenberg's very tentative line into this first one. Takes it so easy there as he goes out.
Yeah, Di Grassi runs wide ever so slightly. Again, just on the cold rubber. You see Petrov now. I mean, Hulkenberg really isn't close enough to have a proper look, especially on cold tyres. Petrov goes tight. And it's that tight manoeuvre, going tight to that hairpin, that cost him up the hill and down into the one overtaking place on this track.
Certainly opens the door there. You say the one overtaking place on this track. We'll see if they can do it as they go over the rise as well and down into that left. We've seen a couple of lockups there going around on this first couple of laps, so we'll soon see if that can pan out and provide us some action throughout the rest of this race. Safety car still out. We've got 35 laps to go of the 37 we're scheduled for this afternoon here at Portimao. They're taking their time getting rid of this stranded Mortara car.
This is just ludicrous. It's a straightforward incident, just tow the car away. I think Mortara got so bored waiting, he's walked off. He was waiting around for them to sort it out. He's walked off and now got a marshal sat in the cockpit of the car trying to steer it back to safety.
It is quite frankly ridiculous that they can't get this
well,
out.
But
the Portimao circuit, Gareth, the Portimao circuit has good access. You can get any sort of vehicle in and out to drag it off to the side.
Yeah, I was going to say we're kind of privileged. We get used to GP2 being with F1, and in F1 this just wouldn't do. They wouldn't stand for this. You know, Bernie Eccleston would be having a fit at this amateurish response from the marshals. So in F1 support races, you know, things that incidents like this are cleared up in no time at all. But 4 laps to clear up a car that's just stopped
in the fairly accessible part of the track as well.
Absolutely.
You can see there the massive runoff that Portimao has been granted in its build all the way through here. You see it down here as well, run off to the left, all the way around the bottom here. 2 configurations of circuit that they can take the inner or the outer line there. We're using the outer line this weekend, but it's been built predominantly with the view of car racing. It will be car racing that will bring this circuit its money over the period of time. It's been built for that. It looks like a great circuit for cars. A few of us have been round this circuit over the past year or so of its life. And Gareth, I tell you, this circuit, the rises, the falls, everything, it's like the very best of British circuits with the very best of Formula One.
I think there's nothing like it that I can think of at this level of motorsport. As you say, it does take cues from quite a few British circuits, particularly Cadwell with its change of elevation. But there's nothing that I can think of on a GP2 level or F1 level that is like it. It's unique, and it's a refreshing challenge. A lot of these circuits that we go to are so sanitized and so predictable. You know, these kind of Middle Eastern circuits, Dubai, Bahrain. I mean, they're okay, but it's great to have a circuit with a bit of character and a real challenge for the drivers. As I said before, you know, in the press conference after the race, after qualifying rather, the drivers were all saying it's so hard to put one clean lap together. It's so bumpy, it's so, you know, blind corners and undulations. It's a real technical challenge.
Certainly is a circuit with a lot of soul to it, which is nice to see in this day and age when perhaps we are all over-sanitised slightly. It's about 40 minutes outside of Faro Airport. If you want to visit it in future, folks, just get to Faro Airport and keep going for about 40 minutes and you'll find Portimao. They've now built the access road off the big motorway, so that's quite a good thing for everybody who wants to go and see that now. Interestingly about Vitaly Petrov as well, he had that arm infection at Monza, of course, Vitaly Petrov, Gareth, which didn't seem to hold him up too much in the racing, but...
That's right, yeah, I mean, again, Monza, safety car's in, so they're starting the race now, yeah.
Okay, so we're back with the racing. Vitaly Petrov is who leads, Niko Hulkenberg, then Di Grassi, Rodriguez and Kloss.
Hulkenberg's having a good look, isn't he? He's got a very, very good run at the last turn.
He won't make it into there, surely. Round the outside. That's amazing, brilliant move, but he runs wide. He ran wide, allowing Petrov to dive up the inside. Brilliant stuff. Well spotted, Gareth, that Hulkenberg was having a look that early on. Di Grassi there watching third, but brilliant stuff by Hulkenberg. He made his intentions known very early on. And he's neither here nor there, is he, about what he wants to do in this race. He wants to get out there early on and win. And you get that impression that if you can make it through the field here, as we're watching some of the other the drivers down there, Parent making his way up through the field. He was down in 14th place, so he's made a couple of places up on that restart already.
Yeah, good for Hulkenberg having a good go there, and Petrov...
big moment, somebody pushed off there near Valsecchi, so who was that? Was that Perez there, who had a run wide onto the...
It was one of the Supernova cars, a black car, wasn't it? It was one of the darker Supernova cars, I think. steep that hill is. That's a good indicator of how steep the track is there, isn't it? They drop down. It's like a roller coaster.
Absolutely. Then they pick up here all the way through onto Craig Jones' corner. The big slides out of here as they drop back down. All of this elevation was built into the makeup of the Portimao circuit as they're coming around. Green flags in the back indicate everything is all right. You can race for it, boys. And Kloss trying to make his way back up as well. But Di Grassi, his teammates on the fat burner racing car, is in third. Kloss, well, he'll be kicking himself somewhat for that wheel spin at the start. That's really penalised him in this order. But Petrov up front, not too worried at the moment by Hulkenberg. We're coming around the final corner though, onto the start-finish straight. A rise up. It's a kick up. It's almost like a tabletop up onto that start-finish straight. Hulkenberg is in second. Vitaly Petrov is in first place. Hulkenberg though, nowhere near on that lap. No.
I mean that was the chance was Petrov didn't get the best restart after the safety car went in. Hulkenberg got a great slipstream down the front straight and really had a good chance to get past. Now I think Petrov's in the groove. There is really only one clear place to overtake on this track, and as long as he keeps that covered, then he's got Hulkenberg safely behind him.
You've got to admire the Portimao officials. The Mortara car is still there, but they've obviously thought, well, we've had long enough now. They all know where it is. We'll let them race.
That's the spirit. Yeah.
We'll sort it out. Yes, exactly.
Here we go. So there's a replay of the restart of the race. Hulkenberg got a great toe off of Petrov, but he's ran the outside. Just brakes a fraction later, but it's too late. Scrabbles to get round the outside. He's on the dirt, and then has to go across the curve and seed back to Petrov.
Fantastic defending there by Petrov. Wasn't to be done, wasn't to be shaken too much by Hulkenberg. Kept his line. He knew Hulkenberg had nowhere to go, and that was it.
Yes, yeah, you're exactly right. And Petrov did what he could. He made Hulkenberg work for the move and managed to keep him at bay.
So Petrov's in the lead with Hulkenberg just behind him. Then Di Grassi, Rodriguez, Nunes, Guido van der Garde, who we saw have a couple of good drives at Monza. Certainly you got the impression there that perhaps the conditions were probably favouring him somewhat. Then Pastor Maldonado, then Kloss. So Kloss now down in
eighth. Yeah, he's had a terrible first part of the race, hasn't he?
Well, Pastor Maldonado is known for enjoying a bit of carrion. If he can mug a driver or two on his way through, he will definitely do that. Kloss paying the price, just keeping it ahead of Philippine now, and then Valsecchi further down.
Yeah, Hulkenberg is clearly the quicker of these two at the front, I think, isn't he? But he, as we said before, it's semi-street circuit in places. This place, it's dusty offline and it's tight and twisty. Lining someone up for an overtaking manoeuvre is extremely difficult, and it makes it easy for the car in front, like Petrov. Although he's slower, it makes it easier for him to keep the guy behind at bay. Nunes with the fastest lap of the race so far. Yeah,
Nunes, I was just about to say, stand by your best because Nunes is coming through. So we'll soon see if he can make it up on Rodriguez. It's going to be a tough round here, definitely. We're going to take a short break, but when we come back, we'll continue with all the action from Portimao and the GP2. We'll see you with that in a couple of minutes' time. Back to the GP2 series, the final round of the championship, which has already been decided, of course, but we're here at Portimao in Portugal. Vitaly Petrov leads, Niko Hulkenberg second, and we have Di Grassi in third. Don't forget that this is the feature race, so if you want to see the sprint race, the final race of the 2009 GP2 series, you can see that tomorrow. And that's at 3 o'clock on British Eurosport 2. 3 o'clock on British Eurosport 2. And if you want more car action of the FIA World Touring Car Championships from Imola, qualifying highlights are next on British Eurosport 2. That's just after our live coverage here right now. And the races are tomorrow at 11:30 AM and 1:30 PM. That's live on both British Eurosport and Eurosport HD. That's Sky Channel 412. If you've got it, go on it. It will be fabulous. But back to the action here at Portimao. Gareth Rees is still alongside me in the commentary booth. And Gareth, starting to settle down now. We're starting to get a rhythm to this race, and it looks like Petrov is pretty happy in control, but Hulkenberg hunting him down.
Yeah, I mean, clearly Hulkenberg is faster, no doubt about that. He got the fastest lap last time around. The pattern of the race is settling down, not dissimilar to Monza, where Petrov was leading the race. The difference is the guy behind him, it was Van der Garde. It's now Hulkenberg. The guy behind him is clearly quicker, and I think it's going to come down to maybe the pit stops. Drive through for car 4, which is Nunes, who's currently running in 5th place.
There you go, overtaking under the safety car was Nunes. We did say that he was making his way up through the field. He's up to 5th overall now, but that's actually going to kibosh this race for him, as well, you might be able to do it early and make some places back up. Who knows, given Portimao, it certainly seems to be throwing in a few ducks there for some of the drivers.
Yeah, I mean, it tends to really, unless you get a safety car period at the right time, then a drive-through penalty really, I mean, you're talking about an extra 30 seconds on your race time. So,
but anything can happen in GP2.
Of course,
we've already had safety car out.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. why we love this class so much.
Philippi with the fastest lap that time round, 32.5.
Well, he was 13th on the grid.
Well, he's got a bit of clear air
still
too.
13th now, but like you say, he's got clear air in front of him. So if he's finding his rhythm, perhaps the tyres are coming in a bit now.
Yeah, well, he's on new rubber. He's just come out of his pit stop. Actually, he's on brand new rubber. He's got nothing in front of him, so he's banged in a good quick lap. It's about 4/10 quicker than Hulkenberg's best was.
Perent now down to 15th, but he had a pit stop as well, so he's had his one stop. Perent's been in and come back out, the local hero around here. You see all the names on the stands all the way around. These are the sponsors of the circuit. A lot of Portuguese government money has gone into this. So nice to hear a government putting money into its local motorsport. Anybody from the government listening, please take note.
It's one of the Supernova cars. Nunes coming in for his pit stop. That's Kloss coming in for his...
Sorry,
Nunes for his drive-through, I think, and Kloss for his pit stop,
yes. Now the rules of GP2 are you have to change at least 2 tyres. You can change 4 if you want to, but he's just going for 2. So that's it. Kloss getting his pit stop out of the way, and now he will rejoin. Before he came in, he was in 10th overall, so really nothing to lose there, Gareth. He's got to pit, get the rubber on, and then get out. Hopefully, find some clear track in front of him, which he is doing, and then just barrel on. Yeah,
I mean, it's been a pretty horrendous race for him, isn't it? Considering he started on the front row and missed pole by a hair's breadth. He's really gone backwards, which I'm surprised at. I mean, he's quite quick by and large. He's generally been around top 10 for most of the season, albeit not really bothered the front of the grid. So I'm surprised he's gone backwards as fast as he has. I guess that he must be off with the car.
Nothing visible. We can't see anything hanging off there as we have so many times at GP2.
It just takes going the wrong way on the setup option. You know, the times are pretty tight around here. You go the wrong way with the setup. You try and find a bit more time in the car. You can often undo all your hard work and end up making the car slower.
Right up the front, then it's Hulkenberg still in second, hunting down Vitaly Petrov, who you can see there in front of him on the mostly white, the off-white Russian money-backed car. And Hulkenberg, that's dots of rain, dots of fuel, very hard to see. But the clouds are forming over the top here. Now, if that happens, that could throw a whole spanner in the works of this GP2 race around Portimao. Portimao is notoriously slippery when wet, and that's really because it hasn't had much around it. It hasn't really aged in. The bumps have got worse, and in the wet, it's incredibly slippery.
A whole host of stoppers coming in here. There's Valsecchi, Petrov's teammate. We've also got Van der Garde and Maldonado as well.
I wonder if they're seeing now that these that the rain clouds going on, although Valsecchi goes out on slicks. Nobody go out on wets at the moment. So.
Difficult. I mean, those 3 guys, actually, they were all running together. They were 6th, 7th and 8th. So why they pitted quite so soon? Maybe they felt they were just... I mean, they were in traffic. They were stuck in traffic. They were behind a couple of drivers. So Herc's at the 5th, which I guess he's one of the few who hasn't stopped yet towards the front. Normally you see Herc further back than that.
Or slamming into the Armco and then barreling across the track, as we saw at Monza.
Or that
Bless him. Okay, so Petrov's still at the lead. We've got Van der Garde, Maldonado and Valsecchi. Now they've gone out again and they will be sort of locked together. But Kloss, Di Grassi, the 2 fat burners, separated by quite a bit out here now. Kloss has rejoined, obviously, after that pit stop. He's in 13th, along with Felipe and Perez. Yeah,
Nunes with his drive-through has dropped rather down to 11th place. He was in 5th, wasn't he? So that did cost him about 25-30 seconds, as we said.
You're really getting an idea from that camera shot there of just the rise and the climb here at Portimao. When you're on that part of the circuit where the drivers are now, you can't see any other part of the circuit around you. You feel very perched on top of Portimao as Valsecchi comes under pressure.
There's Perent having a look, trying to get past Valsecchi. He's all over him. Awful lot quicker. Valsecchi takes a real tight line over the brow.
You're not going to get past him there, because if you do, you're going to find Valsecchi coming into the side of you. So Niko Hulkenberg, the man who was in second in the race on the track, starts for his pit stop. Comes out, remember to hit the limiter as you're coming down. You don't want to get another drive-through penalty, as we saw at Monza for a couple of drivers who came out too fast and had to go back through. That would really put the end on your competitive race. This is Hulkenberg coming out.
This is key for him now to get out. If he can get ahead of this car that's coming down the straight, if he can, and get the tyres warmed up and get a few real quick laps in, then he's got a nice bit of clear track. Obviously what he wants to do is get enough quick laps in so that when Petrov stops for his pit stop, Petrov loses time and Hulkenberg can take the lead of the race through the pit stops.
Absolutely, we will see if Hulkenberg's strategy has paid off. As he is crowned the new champion for this year, you would certainly hope that he was pretty much on the money for this one.
Yeah, I think he's come out. That Supernova car is Philippi, isn't it? Who's been going very quickly, actually.
Philippi with Nunes.
So he's held him off. He's right behind Hulkenberg. Scott Philippi right behind him.
So Vitaly Petrov still out there ahead of Di Grassi, then Rodriguez, Hulkenberg 4th on the corrected sheets, then Herc, Brazier, and Philippi down in 8th. Parent now up to 15th, so something has happened. This is Kloss we're looking at. Oh, big shunt there from Kloss. Well, you're going to run close like that, you're going to pay the price eventually.
Just made contact with Maldonado, didn't he, with now Petrov in. Now this is key, so Hulkenberg, if he can get the hammer down and get a real quick lap in on this new rubber.
This is the man who was leading the race, Vitaly Petrov. This is where the next stage of this race will be won or lost. Has to hit the limiter as well before he comes out. No speeding in pit lane. Remind you of that. Can he get out and still maintain his position in front of Hulkenberg after the stop?
So you see Petrov coming down the pit lane on the left-hand side. Where's Hulkenberg? He hasn't appeared yet through the last turn. There he is. Hotly pursued by, I don't think he's going to pull it off.
No, he's not going to make it
very, very close.
If he is
Petrov, he's done it. He's done it. That effectively is the lead of the race taken there. These guys are down in 7th place, but the guys ahead of them haven't stopped.
Well, Petrov will be saying all sorts inside his helmet, no doubt, because just couldn't put the power down any earlier. Has to cross the line at the end of pit lane before he can get down to it. So the fight now swings the other way. Hulkenberg is in control with Petrov now in 2nd overall.
Yeah, you can see him frantically trying to get the power down as he came out of the speed limit area. And the car just got a bit sideways as he put the power on, but it was too late. Hulkenberg was passed and sweeps into the effective lead.
Good scrap here, including Kloss, Maldonado and Perez.
Yeah, prior to that we saw Kloss clout Maldonado from behind, didn't we? And a big chunk of nose cone came flying off. And looked to be Kloss's fault, actually, I have to say, looking at the pictures that we saw.
So on board with Maldonado. As he comes up, we'll see. It doesn't look like there's any handling problems there. It doesn't look like anything's come off the back of his car after that collision with Kloss. And Di Grassi, Kloss's teammate on the Fat Burner racing car, comes in for his pit stop.
Yeah.
I would have favoured they probably would have wanted Kloss to come in if anything was too serious, so we can take from that perhaps, I mean, the team will have a look as he's gone past.
I mean, Di Grassi currently is leading the race. Obviously, he's not when all pit stops shake out, but he's leading the race. So generally, you give preference to your car that's further up the field. Yeah,
the point is that the team have had a look at Kloss's car as he came past. If he'd have taken anything off the front and needed work, they could have. They
could have done, but they wouldn't let that get in the way of the pit stops. That that takes priority because Kloss has been going backwards, really, isn't he? So. Big gap back to Petrov, isn't it? Petrov's taking a long time to get his rubber up to speed. And in fact, he's dropped behind Di Grassi, so Di Grassi's 2nd.
Well, that's
Petrov
a
drops down to 3rd, effectively. Yeah,
that's a nightmare lap for Petrov. What times did he do there, Gareth, in the last lap? Because I would venture he's probably run a little bit wide on a couple of points there and had to come back. You wouldn't have expected him to drop that far back over that lap.
You wouldn't. I mean, he obviously had the new rubber on. Hulkenberg's rubber had a lot more heat into it. But even so, you're right. He's dropped back more than I would expect. Now the roles are reversed. Di Grassi's on the stone cold rubber, and Petrov's tyres have got a lap's worth of heat on them.
Truly is amazing how wide you can make a car, as Rodriguez is doing in front of Maldonado and Kloss there. So this is Vitaly Petrov. Now looking at the back of Di Grassi's car, he has to hunker down. He has to try and get past while he can, because at the moment the advantage is with him in this battle. He has to make it count on this lap. Doesn't look to me, Gareth, like he's making it happen.
No, I'm just clearly not happy with the balance on the car at all. I think both sides of the pit stops, his laps would have been disappointing. And equally Hulkenberg, just what was key was Hulkenberg getting out in front of Philippi. And Di Grassi clearly, again, from the same point of view, Di Grassi must have had an excellent in-lap, which allowed him just to get the jump on Petrov. But you're right, Petrov seems to be struggling to keep pace with a car there that's on cold rubber, Di Grassi.
Well, certainly on the white car, the off-cream coloured car there that you can see the teammate to Vitaly Petrov and Valsecchi in a real fight with Perez and Parent either side of him. Parent now up to 13th, qualified, I remind you, on 24th, given special dispensation and this very strange ruling that often happens in GP2. We saw it at Monza with the chicane rule. It's no area of black, it's all black and white, no area of grey, unless you're Parent at a Portuguese race, of course, then the big area of grey, and it lets you on the back of the grid. But he's proven that to be a good choice because he's up to 13th at the moment, just behind Valsecchi, who we saw there coming through. So Parent in the blue car, Valsecchi in the off-white creamy car, and no doubt we'll see a lot from Parent as he's coming around here. You've got the feeling he has been here before. He has got some testing in another car, in another life perhaps at Portimao. It'd be very strange for him not to have done a few more laps than everybody else around this track.
Yeah, back at the front we've got Michael Herc leading the race, which is, that must be a first. Herc, Razia, Teixeira is our top 3. None of them are pitted, obviously, so the actual leader of the race is Hulkenberg, followed by Filippi, who obviously benefited from an earlier pit stop than the rest of the field. So actually the real the front runners are Hulkenberg, Filippi, De Grassi, Petrov is our top 4.
And you get the impression, don't you, that Filippi, perhaps his tyres were hot, up to speed. He was very happy with the car, and he has leapfrogged De Grassi and Petrov.
He has, yeah.
Because of that, because while they were out on the cold rubber, sliding around at Portimao, trying to get a feel for each other, and perhaps looking more at each other and taking their eye off the ball slightly, Filippi managed to leapfrog them.
I mean, he must have had a great run on a good clear run. Well, like we said, he stopped about 4 or 5 laps before the rest of the front runners. When he came out, he had nobody near him. He was able to get his head down and bang in some real quick laps, which he did, to the point that actually he almost took the lead of the race. Because don't forget, as Hulkenberg came out the pits from his pit stop, it was touch and go whether he was going to keep Filippi behind. He just managed to, which is critical for the overall result of the race. Which is
where Portimao's tricky first few corners played into Hulkenberg's hands perfectly well, because once he got in there, all he had to do was basically drive defensively. You're going such a long way round here at Portimao.
Yeah,
it's perfect in that advantage.
Exactly. Had this been Monza, that would have been a whole different kettle of fish, and Monza is much easier to overtake, and driving defensively there is much harder.
That's Parent in the blue car just behind Valsecchi. Oh, I would like to think that wasn't terminal smoke that we saw coming out the back of Parent, just like the dashboard or something kicking off a little bit there as he was getting up the hill, but fingers crossed this is Parent's team.
Chandok looking
not much Chandok can do.
Resigned.
So Valsecchi goes through with Parent behind him. This is the battle now for 12th and 13th place. Kloss now, let's keep an eye on Kloss, because he's up to 10th, well, down to 10th, up to 10th.
Down to 10th, I think, yeah.
Down to 10th, absolutely, for a man who qualified on second on there. And you were right in what you were saying earlier on, Gareth, about Kloss, because his qualifying time was fantastic. He was only 4/100ths of a second slower than Petrov on pole, so something happened here, something clicked with him, and he managed to find his way up there, definitely on the fat burner car. Hasn't quite happened so far in the race. We do have 21 laps to go. There's still some way. You can see him there, probably getting a bit of a rush on now.
Yeah, Teixeira pits from 3rd place. So Hulkenberg is up to 3rd place. Herc and Razia still at the front, about 13 seconds up the road.
Razia had a much better outing at Monza than Herc, but you do get the feeling that Herc is probably enjoying this time out front, and might be just making the most of it.
Exactly, that's what it's about, isn't it? It's about increasing the profile and getting some laps at the front, but it won't last. I mean, his lap times are actually not bad at the moment. I'll give him his due. He's lapping sort of high 32s, which is comparable to what the front runners are doing. Probably 3 to 4 tenths slower than Hulkenberg and Filippi. So he's not off the pace as such. He's just, fractionally slower.
Considerably slower than Razia, though. Who's, what was his last lap?
That was a 34.2, but I think that must have been a mistake there. I mean, if you're lapping consistently at that, you're going to get.
Well, just thinking if tyres are starting to drop here, and it will force his hand. He will run wide there, and Herc is a man who, as you say, that's a great time actually, 1:32.8. Because let's have a look at Hulkenberg, 32.5, and then Filippi 32.5 as well. So he's there or thereabouts, 32.7 there that time from Herc.
Yeah, that's on the pace, isn't it? The true leaders of the race are sort of doing mid-32, so he's pretty much on the pace. With De Grassi popped to 32.3 in that last lap. So that was a good job from Herc. Give him his due.
4.3 by Razia as he crossed there. Hulkenberg just about to come over the line. He does with a 32.6. So Hulkenberg, the fastest man out there at the moment. Oh no, as I say that, Filippi just passes in there, 32.616, and De Grassi bangs in a 32.1. So De Grassi really has pulled the pin, and he's trying to hunt down Filippi in 4th. On board with Pastor Maldonado. Looking back at Kloss, former second place man on the grid. Doesn't look like Kloss can do much about him from there.
You see the damage on Kloss's nose where he clobbered Maldonado a few laps ago as well. I don't think it looks too serious. It won't be affecting him in a straight line for straight line speed, I don't think.
Like any sort of
dirties rather than too much damage. You saw a lump fall off, but it's hard to see where that actually came from. It can even be Maldonado's car it came off.
So Herc leads from Razia, from Hulkenberg, Filippi, De Grassi and Petrov. There is Kloss, the second of these cars that we're looking at, the red and yellow. On the fat burner racing, and he is hunting down Pastor Maldonado again for the second time. Let's hope they don't get too close and what happened before.
Yeah.
Oh, big slide there by Kloss. He's trying to hang it all out on Craig Jones' corner as he's coming round. Well, not really the way you go very fast around these corners. It may look spectacular, but
he's trying
it
his
doesn't make
hardest.
much.
He's trying his hardest to keep up, isn't he? But I have to say, if you wanted two drivers to keep apart from each other, it's these two. They're both prone to getting involved in some avoidable incidents, shall we say. We'd already seen a snapshot of that earlier on. So let's hope they don't get too close, because fireworks are going to go off, I think.
I think we could do with some fireworks in this race, Gareth. Let's get them a bit closer as well.
The wrong type, I think, unfortunately.
So now it's all starting to sort itself out. Herc will have to pit. Razia will have to pit, so we can virtually discount them from the running order at the moment. So Hulkenberg is the real leader on track because he has pitted once. Has Philippi in second, and De Grazia in third. Vitaly Petrov, who is in fourth, then Rodriguez fifth, Pastor Maldonado sixth, and Kloss behind him, as you can see there, seventh. Then Perez, Valsecchi, Parent, who's now up to 12th overall after starting from the back of the grid following that gearbox failure in qualifying. Now when Herc and Razia pit, there's a good chance that Parent might find his way up another place or two when that all happens. So that would be a great result from him. It would be a fantastic turnout for Parent if he can make the top 10 here, Gareth.
It would, from the back of the grid, that would be a good result.
This is Parent in the blue car here, closing in on Valsecchi that we can see in front.
Ultimately disappointing for the team. It's not what it would have expected. Is that Herc coming in for his pit stop finally?
Yeah. That's Herc. So Herc is in for his pit stop. That takes him out of the running order on the track at the moment. So they will all barrel up, and you've got to think that Razia will come in soon as well.
Yeah, I think he might do the same thing. Just stay at the front for a bit, just to get some publicity.
Sure. Get
his sponsors on the cameras.
Never a bad thing.
No, indeed.
We always say thank you to the sponsors.
And let's not forget he won in Monza in the sprint race, really convincingly too. I mean, I didn't think he would stay there. Oh, almost loses the engine, Herc. He was surrounded by guys who've been front runners all year, and he did a fantastic job. I give him his due. He doesn't normally feature at the front of the race, but once he got there, he made a real good job of it.
And there's a real conditions change as well between the feature race and the.
So that's he's dropped in front of Kloss, isn't he? He's dropped in between Maldonado and Kloss, which will be. Maldonado will be very happy about that, and Kloss certainly won't be.
He'll be furious. And Herc drives defensively, goes up the inside as we saw from Vitaly Petrov at the start.
Got every right to, you know, he's racing for position. But it's annoying for Kloss because
Kloss will surely go here into the downhill left-hander. Whoa, Herc pulling right across, and he's defending every way he can. He's jamming up. If he's not careful here, though, he's going to allow Perez to come through.
Yeah, Perez is watching all this unfold and thinking, I can make a couple of places up here.
And of course, just behind Perez on the blue car is Parent, because he's now past Valsecchi, as indeed is Van der Gaard. So I can only assume Valsecchi made a big error somewhere, and he's taken himself out. He's dropped down to 13th, so Parent now up into 11th. And that's the car at the back of this four that you're watching here, just behind Herc as Kloss has gone past.
There's an interesting aside to this little thing that's unfolding in front of us here. DPR, the only team to not score a point so far this year, and where Herc is, he's come out in 9th, just behind Maldonado. So there's points down to 8, so he needs to make one place up to score a point, otherwise the team are going to be, big lock-up, the team are going to be pointless, and no GP2 team has ever done that before, gone through a whole season without scoring points.
No pressure then?
No.
No pressure. You're one place away from scoring the points.
Finally.
Yeah, finally, in the final round. You have one more chance this year to not be
Brent's got a good run.
Spoon.
He's got a good run.
That's going to happen, surely.
No, Perez holds him off. He's on the inside. That's it. He's made a stick. Yeah.
Great move. Yeah. Great move. And doesn't run too wide as well, so he keeps his line all the way through that first tight little chicane.
Okay, so that'll see him up onto the back of Kloss now, who's stuck in behind Herc.
Let's take a look at the times then. Herc, we can discount Herc obviously for that, but Maldonado 1:33.4. And then we have Perez, what time is that? 34.6, slow. And then Parent 32.9. So yeah, Parent looks like he has got his finger out, and he is heading on down. Razia still leading, stays out, hasn't pitted, ahead of Hulkenberg and Felipe de Grassi and Petrov.
Oh, another big lock-up from Herc. The more you do that, the worse it gets. I mean, it's easily done. That the load of the car, you're braking hard on a gradual right turn. The front right just goes ever so light. Once you've done it once, it'll keep picking it up just like that. Very similar kind of geometry corner. You're braking hard into just a gradual right-hand bend. It lifts the front right wheel just ever so slightly, shifts the weight transfer to the front left.
Tricky cambers here at Portimao as well, not always positive. That will compound the issue.
Yep. Yeah, it'll get worse and worse as the race goes on. We'll be driving around on the triangles.
So Kloss, the man who was probably ruining his start when teammate De Grassi comes around the outside, he's now up to 9th, as you said, not far away from the points here. Raj is still to pit. Fair play.
Our actual leader, or once things all shake out, the last man in the way is Razia, who's the last man not to pit. So Hulkenberg is looking pretty comfortable, 2.5 seconds up the road from this man, Philippi.
What are your thoughts on Hulkenberg's switch over to F1, the much publicised, well, highly talked about situation that he might find himself in with Williams?
I think it has to happen, doesn't it? He's done such a great job this year. I mean, he of all the drivers around him, De Grassi, Petrov, Philippi, Rodriguez, he's the only true rookie. You know, they've all done GP2 before. He stepped up from F3 over the winter, did a bit of GP2 Asia just to sort of get himself played into the bigger, faster cars. Won both the races he raced in Asia, I think it was, or certainly was a front runner, won at least one race. And he stepped into the European Series, which is more competitive than the Asian Series, and straight away was competitive. Took him a race or two to find his ultimate pace, and once he was into his stride, he was untouchable. He's been the class of the field this year, no question. So he deserves an F1 chance.
Got to be a bit careful when he gets out there in an F1 car, hasn't he? He's been out and did a test a couple of years ago, and or at the start of last season, and suffered there. Well, Guido van der Garde
slowed down,
virtually pulled over and stopped. So that's it, game over for him, unless he can limp it back to the pits, and it's not a terminal problem, but I would imagine there is a terminal problem with that. He's got a lot of dirt on his left-hand front as well, so possibly whatever's causing him to slow down has caused him to take an off-track excursion. Not good for Van der Garde, and he had a pretty good run. Here we go, we'll see here.
Whoa!
Massive slide from Kloss.
No, he lost it.
Well, that's it. That's the final turn. So you're coming down the hill there. You're probably in 4th gear, 5th gear, even as you're coming down into there.
That's quick. And who's that? It's Parent and who's that? Perez.
Perez.
Is that Perez?
That
yeah,
Perez.
I think it is, isn't it?
Oh my goodness! So Perez and Parent both go out. That's 9th and 10th. They're out as well.
Oh, here we go.
We'll see here. Well, how brave do you want to be?
So that's Perez trying to retake the place he lost a couple of laps ago.
On the right, just comes in. Perez holds his line. No problem there from what Perez is doing from this point. Just slams the doors shut. Takes Perez out, the pair of them. Well, call that Gareth.
Yeah, well, I mean,
6 of one, half of
exactly right. So I was going to say it's a racing incident. I think probably Perez could have given a bit more room to Perent on the apex, but equally Perent stuck his nose in probably where he shouldn't have done. So both as bad as each other, I think.
That is a nightmare for the Ocean Racing team. That's Chanduk, who's out already. Now Perent, who was coming through the field very well. There's no getting away from it. Started on the very back of the grid, as we've already mentioned, and he was up to 9th place before the incident at one point. And well, you've got to have the feeling that they were maybe starting to rub their hands together and thinking, well, that's a hell of a result to have out here.
Yeah, disappointing for them. And there's always pressure at your home race to get a result, and it just hasn't worked out for them. In fact, it could have got much worse for them.
So we have the safety car out with 14 laps to go. So Razia comes in and does pit and makes a bit of a meal of getting out of his box as he comes out, but he should rejoin somewhere, 5 possibly. It all depends. The safety car, of course, plays into his hands. It's a good time to go in to that pit and take it there. So in terms of tactics, at least, Luis Razia seems to be playing a blinder.
Yeah,
Portimao.
Yeah, they played that nicely. Going back to the Kloss spin that we saw, he held it, didn't he, very well for a good 3 or 4 seconds, just over that brow and through that long right-hander. And in the end, it just got away from him.
Beautiful. Right up until the point where it did get away from him. There we are, Van der Garde. So whatever it was, it is terminal, and he is out unless they can do something very, very quick indeed. It doesn't look like it, though. I'm surprised he's out of the car already. But
well, they're plugging the laptop in, so clearly some kind of electrical computer problem rather than a mechanical one.
Can you reprogram the driver that quickly?
I think there's a few teams out there who'd like that facility, that's for sure.
There's Perent sitting on the Armco, forlornly looking at Perez's car.
It's Perez wandering back.
I wonder if they will have words at some point. I wouldn't put it past them. And so ends what was turned into a good couple of drives there. Here it is, Perent on the right-hand side, Perez on the left. And Perez just does nothing wrong, cuts across, holds his line as he comes up, and you just get the feeling that Perent, bizarrely, wasn't about to back off when perhaps he should, Gareth. Perhaps, discretion is the better part of valour in situations like this, no matter what the team are doing on pit wall.
That's
the
what
driver has to know when to go and
when to stick your nose in and when not to. Yeah, exactly. I think.
Yeah,
but he probably expected Perez to give him a little bit more room, but I think
drivers, eh?
Neither escapes with blameless there.
No,
drivers, yeah.
That's what you want, though. You want the driver. You want a racing driver, don't you? You don't want the guy who'll back off, I guess. So, from the top, Hulkenberg. This man here, Niko Hulkenberg, the new champion of GP2 series for 2009, is doing the perfect job out here at Portimao at the moment behind the safety car. He is leading overall. Felipe is in second, Degrassi third, then Razia, Petrov now down in fifth. Our pole position man, Vitaly Petrov. Gareth, Vitaly Petrov, most likely he'll still stay in GP2 for another year, I would imagine. He's going to find it hard to get out of here, isn't he, now?
He's in a difficult position. He can't really stay in GP2. This is his fourth season. He can't seriously do a fifth year of GP2.
Well, he could. There's nothing in the rules to say he
No,
couldn't,
absolutely. But I mean, from a career point of view, it wouldn't be a good idea. However, the chances of him getting an F1 seat are pretty thin as well. I mean, F1 always takes the latest, greatest, youngest, most fashionable driver out there, and Petrov is far from that. He's clearly got the pace, but it's not about that. What it also is about is money. Now, if he has got excellent backing behind him, then he could get an F1 seat with that. However, I would have thought if he had the money, he already would be an F1.
Yes.
You know, with the experience he's got in these cars, he's worth a punt with certainly with a backfield team in F1 to take a budget along to. So I don't know what his financial situation is, but in terms of just getting there on reputation and ability, I don't think he's done enough to do that, unfortunately for him.
Given the rule changes in F1 and what we've seen recently, the whole PK debacle and the Briatore sort of influence there, and now what's going to happen, you don't see a time perhaps when Petrov could make his way into one of the smaller concerns that are coming into the championship.
Yeah, but only with money. I mean, those smaller teams are going to need money. They're going to need finance, and they're going to need at least one, probably two drivers who are bringing some money along. Petrov does have money. Whether it's enough to be impressing an F1 team, I don't know.
Interesting as well about what's happened recently with the PKs and Briatore and Alonso and that whole saga that's going on in Formula One. Do you know? Do we have an update on the situation with PK and the Peter Sauber team?
I think, sorry, Tony. I think the safety car lights have gone off. Hence why Hulkenberg is slowing the field down.
Yes. But I won't let you off the point, Gareth. As brave as you were there.
I know the lights are still on. That's why is Hulkenberg slowed down so much?
He looked like he was locking up coming down the hill, so perhaps
but he's backed the field up. That's what a driver normally does before when the safety car's about to go in. Absolutely. Yeah, so I don't know why he's done that. To be fair, from that angle, look like they're off, don't they?
But to be fair to you, Gareth, it did look like they were off from the rear.
Yeah.
So
I think maybe they are. I think it's going in. I think they've obviously had the message that it's going in, because he wouldn't do this otherwise. So I think we can assume, because we can't see clearly, that the race is about to restart. And there you go, they're off.
So Hulkenberg trying to get the drop on everybody. Felipe second, Degrassi is in third on the yellow and red car, the Fat Burner Racing team. You see him there. Hulkenberg, wow, great run there down the start, finish straight. No one's going to be able to tow him all the way through there. But look at Degrassi in third behind Felipe. If he can just hang on, no, Felipe seems to have the pace. Petrov though, looking at this massive, huge amount from Maldonado. Massive from Maldonado. Really, I'd say fortune favours the brave. I'm not sure if that was brave or just very, very rash, or a huge mistake from Maldonado. He could have meant that.
He missed his braking point, didn't he? As simple as that, and just got away with it. But it did get him a place. He was behind Rodriguez on the run down. He's now ahead of him. You can see him behind us here.
Maldonado looking back at Herc. So Herc, who played the blinder with his pit stop and his strategy of staying out as well. He was putting in times equal to the race leaders overall. He was in the mid 132. So Herc really coming good there. Herc's currently in sixth. Maldonado now Herc in seventh. Sorry, Maldonado now in sixth. And there's these two that we're looking here. Maldonado is in the red and white car, as you're seeing him round looking back at Herc on the blue and white, and behind him is Valsecchi.
That's Rodriguez, I think, behind Maldonado. Oh, no, it's Herc. You're right, absolutely right. On my mistake. You're absolutely right.
There you go. Okay.
No, it's Rodriguez. It's not shown. The timing monitor is showing Herc as being behind Maldonado. It's not. It's Maldonado's ahead of Rodriguez. That shot there on the monitor is the last time they crossed the field.
So Herc looking back at Rodriguez.
Exactly.
Maldonado.
No, Maldonado, Rodriguez, Valsecchi is the order.
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you. There you
then
go.
Herc.
Then Herc.
Yes.
Who is behind Valsecchi.
Got there in the end, Tony.
So thank goodness you're here, Gary. So Maldonado looking back at.
You go. I'll let you do it. It's Rodriguez behind us, who's I think pretty annoyed because Maldonado left him no option but to get out of the way. He's clearly out of control. Here he comes, great slipstream. Maldonado makes him go on the outside, and that's a lovely move. That's really fantastic. That was laced with a bit of venom too, wasn't it? That was retribution for the move Maldonado put on him the lap before.
Certainly a sense of payback there. And look at the pace already as he's gone. Valsecchi just clips the dirt on the inside, pays with it now. He has to drop back, and that does allow Herc through on Valsecchi.
Yeah, great move from Rodriguez. I'd like to see that from on board again. That was a super move. You really see the slipstream working well, and you see the closer Rodriguez got, the more he got pulled into Maldonado's gearbox.
Zuber now all over the back of Valsecchi as he's looking up the inside, seeing if he can do it. Pushes wide. That's only going to allow the advantage to go to Valsecchi as he comes through there, and he's not looking very fast on this restart. It has to be said, Vitaly Petrov's teammate looking like he's a bit of a mobile chicane out there, Gareth.
He's on the back foot. I think he's obviously been offline, dirted his rubber, and now he's really struggling to keep the traffic behind.
So Hulkenberg, Felipe, De Grassi, Petrov.
Oh, spinner. Is that Nunes?
That's huge.
Nunes,
that could be Nunes. And that's at the top of Craig Jones' corner. Well, thankfully, it is Nunes. Come on, get going.
Yeah.
Thankfully, not too much traffic around him there, and he could rejoin. Valsecchi then ties up the inside of Zuber. Manages to make it stick, no problem with that. That's the penultimate corner.
I think probably
before they get into this final where they come down, where we saw Kloss just absolutely hang the car out before he span. Unfortunately, that was beautiful all the way through there. You did get the impression that when Kloss had that slide, he thought that was going so well right up until the point where it wasn't. Right.
Zuber again. I think what we saw then was Zuber actually just getting rebuffed by Valsecchi. Now he's coming back at him.
He just maybe give Valsecchi a bit of a punt.
That's Javi Villa at the back of this little pack, isn't it? He's having a nibble at Kloss. That's the two Spaniards having a fight amongst themselves,
which can never end well.
There you go. This Nunes just got tagged into it, I think. Yeah, just got a touch on his right rear. Couldn't see who that was from, actually. Possibly Razia. Maldonado was back ahead of Rodriguez, and Rodriguez takes the place. Oh, it's a replay. It's a replay, silly boy. I didn't think we'd seen them swap places again.
And then he's gone. He's out of there. I mean, that was the way to do it. And there is Valsecchi just sticking his tyre in the dirt, as you surmised. It did happen. Pulled him wide, and that was it. There was nothing he could do. And Zuber immediately pounced. Couldn't quite make it up the hill, but that has harassed him non-stop since. Yeah,
he just took a big old chunk of curb and a bit more, didn't he? And clobbered the dirt, and it sent the car sideways. Picked up all the dirt, and lost of momentum.
So Kloss Villa. Portimao is one of these circuits, Gareth. It certainly looks like if you're brave and don't worry too much about messing up the next guy's line, if you're prepared to stick it up the inside, there's more than maybe one overtaking place here. But you've got to be brave and sure of yourself on the brakes.
It's a tough place to overtake. We already said that. I mean, it's Maldonado being. That isn't the replay, is it? We haven't seen that before. That is definitely a move unfolding live. Yeah. So Maldonado obviously got back past Rodriguez. Now Rodriguez gone back past Maldonado. So these two having a good old ding-dong. What's happening is each time they get to the front straight, who's ever in front is getting towed and slipstreamed by the other. It's kind of like an IndyCar race on the front straight there.
And being allowed the room to do it as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were talking about the braking zones here at Portimao. Talk us through this. Great example of it.
Yeah, it is Herc. It's Herc going past Maldonado. So Rodriguez is up the road, and that's actually Herc going past Maldonado, which is unusual. We don't see Herc make places like that very often. And the key thing is he's now into the points. So hopefully for his sake and the team's sake, they can pick up those points by staying where they are and not finish the season pointless.
Not make history by being the first team to do that.
Not a record you want, really.
Definitely not. As they drop down Craig Jones' corner and then they go the start, run up the hill. Then it's a sharp left up here as we're looking back. So close. So close from Maldonado's car. Drop back round. The fall away here, the cameras really don't do it justice. It's a very severe drop, and then you level it up before you run into the final corner. It's all flat, and then it plunges. It's like dropping off the side of the earth. It's like Paddock Hill Bend if you've driven around there. The way the earth just tumbles away from underneath you, and a fast run here.
Yeah, Zuba's got
Zuba got a great run on Valsecchi.
If anything, he's too close. You know, you could do with just being a little bit further back on the lead into the front straight.
Well, Valsecchi's going to take that back, surely.
Yeah. Zuba was actually too close. He didn't make the most of the slipstream. You know, you need to just be coming back 3 or 4 lengths from the back of the car in front. And he was tucked under the gearbox as they came onto the straight. You don't get the same aerodynamic effect as when you're that close.
That wonderful slingshot, that last moment of slipstream that just allows you to barrel your way past. You can see the ripples now in the circuit. This wasn't something that was that we could see from previous years around here, Gareth. I mean, the track was only completed at the end of 2007 in quite a rushed way, it has to be said. But now the track's rippling. It's starting to move underneath it. The forces that these cars and other racing here generates through it, causing a lot of ripples. That's tough for drivers to compensate for.
Yeah, it's just the settling of the circuit, isn't it? As you say, it's only 2 years old, or maybe 2 years old. And the soil around here is obviously quite sandy and soft, and the circuit's settling. And what happens is you get these awful bumps that, from a driver's point of view, when you're driving a car as stiff as this, is pretty uncomfortable. And if the bumper's at the wrong place, in the middle of a turn or in a braking area, it makes it very, very difficult to drive the car.
There's blocking up going on a bit further down the field as tyres are starting to pay the price. Now it's just 7 laps to go, so any drivers who do want to make a move and try and get the brake on anybody around them, they're going to have to do it pretty soon. Any drivers who haven't pitted will need to do it pretty soon as well. Zuba not close enough to Valsecchi as they're coming in this time. Pastor Maldonado leading there on the red and white car. Valsecchi just behind him. Zuba in black.
Nicely done. Dive bombed. Is that Kobayashi, I think, is it? Yeah, going past
Kobayashi.
Going past Rigon, yeah.
Well, nice to see Kamui Kobayashi doing something like that in a race. It's not very often we get to see such things.
It's a collector's item, it's fair to say. You don't see him overtake very often at all.
Kobayashi, one of the drivers, of course, who goes to GP2, the Asia Series, the winter one. So we see a replay over here, Kobayashi diving up the inside of Rigon. Yeah,
Rigon just half asleep, and Kobayashi took advantage and snatched the place from him.
Yeah, Kamui Kobayashi has some success in the GP2 Asia Series. We have seen him out there, but it's fair to say that is a championship that perhaps is missing some of the bigger names from GP2. The Asia Series being the winter one that's, I think, changing location for this winter coming up, Gareth.
Yeah, I think it's going to just be less adventurous. I mean, they have been, it's based in the Middle East, it's based in Bahrain, Dubai, but also they fly out to, have flown to Shanghai and to Singapore, Malaysia. I think they're going to rein it back in and make it just a Middle Eastern, just for cost sakes, really.
Which, given the global situation, is perfectly understandable.
Yeah.
Will hopefully entice a few more drivers to take part in it, just to keep their hand in almost over if they can find the funds.
That's right. It just keeps you sort of sharper over the winter. When I was racing, I used to try and do a bit of karting over the winter just to keep sharp if I can. If you can do a mini series like GP2 Asia, so much the better.
Oh, Zuba on the, I was going to say on the inside, but he's actually on the left-hand side of Valsecchi as they're coming in. Can he make it stick around the outside? I'd be very surprised from there. Valsecchi seems to be pretty good on the brakes as he's coming through. So Zuba there struggling, but Kobayashi closed right upon him. So Kamui Kobayashi, as rude as I just was about him, seems to have pulled the pin. He's got a lick on now. His tail is up. Yeah. Confidence is high. And Kamui Kobayashi sees a couple of places for the taking.
Well, it's Maldonado that's causing this problem, isn't it? He's really struggling for pace and holding everybody up, and it's allowed Kobayashi to catch them very, very quickly.
Kobayashi and
down the inside. Yep, that'll do. Thank you. Nice
move on Zuba. So Kamui Kobayashi does take Zuba as he goes up there, and then it's Valsecchi, the driver in front. You can see there though that move by Kobayashi just bought 3, 4, 5 car lengths almost for Valsecchi. He's away now, but as you say, Pastor Maldonado, the driver who's holding all of these drivers up behind him, and Kamui Kobayashi, given what he's just done in the past couple of laps, Gareth, you've got to say he's going to be quite eager to capitalise on that further. Valsecchi makes a move up the inside, or has a look at the inside of Pastor Maldonado. Never on there, but he'll be just trying to pressure him into perhaps making a mistake, a lock up here, run wide there, and that will allow Valsecchi to go through.
There's a replay of Kobayashi coming down the inside of Zuba. So 2 and 2 laps from Kobayashi. You have to wonder where you have a breakfast. It's most out of character.
It's taking a long time to cut in though, as we only have a few laps left. So Pastor Maldonado starts his run down the start-finish straight. A big lift up, you see there, perfectly illustrated. Down the start-finish, and Valsecchi behind him. Maldonado, Kamui Kobayashi then at the inside of Valsecchi, having a good strong look upside. If does this would be amazing for Kobayashi, not a drive you'd expect. Valsecchi dives up the inside of Maldonado, runs wide, can't manage it. Kobayashi on the outside of Valsecchi takes it through. He'll make that stick surely through there. Valsecchi once again for about the 4th time this race sticks his right front tyre into the dirt of that corner. That only robs him of speed and momentum. And past the Maldonado now, if he looks in his mirrors, if you could see in your mirrors on these GP2 cars, which is very hard to do, he will no doubt be as surprised as everybody else is that Kamui Kobayashi is right behind him, having taken 3 places in less than 2 laps.
Well, the measure of how much Maldonado is holding these guys up, and the fact they're fighting amongst themselves, which isn't helping. Herc, who was in this pack, he's 6 seconds up the road from them.
Astonishing.
So all this infighting has slowed everybody down. Right,
this is on board with Pastor Maldonado. Looking back, Valsecchi's off to your left. That is Kamui Kobayashi now, dives up the inside. Valsecchi had already run wide, virtually run off the track. That allowed Kamui Kobayashi, you see Valsecchi there, stick his right wheel into the dirt, and that just allowed Kamui Kobayashi to come back through. And now Kamui Kobayashi's looking like he wants to bite at Pastor Maldonado. So good stuff there by Kobayashi, and behind him Valsecchi, and then Zuba. And behind all that, just off the end of this, in 12th place is Kloss. Now, Kloss will surely be fancying himself here in the last few laps if he's got any tyres left behind him. I mean, you know, he has to go for it. He qualified in 2nd, then he got dropped right back. He's on the back of a group here, Gareth, and who knows, a couple of good strong passes, he could do a Kobayashi.
Well, don't forget there's added spice on this scrap too, as we see Kobayashi getting a great slipstream from Maldonado. Which way to go? Round the outside. He's got that. Lovely. Maldonado's awful on the brakes, isn't he? Really struggling on the brakes, Maldonado. But don't forget, this is for the front row tomorrow. This is for pole. So Maldonado actually has dropped to 8th place. 8th is pole tomorrow because the top 8 reverse.
Absolutely. So Kobayashi would now be 2nd place on the grid.
Yep, exactly
the top 8 from this race get turned around. That gives us our first 8 in the racing tomorrow. So whoever finishes in 8th is on pole for the sprint race. Sprint race, no pit stops. And it will be the end of the year. The situation is go for it, guys. Here we go. This is the replay of Kamui Kobayashi on the right-hand side of your screen, driving around the outside of Pastor Maldonado. As you said, Gareth, Maldonado into there is, by comparison, awful.
Yeah, you could see he was on the brakes a good couple of lengths earlier than Kobayashi was. And whether that's the problem, whether that's why he's so slow, because his brakes are shot. I mean, it's pretty hard on brakes around here, and you do have to respect them and look after them. So maybe he's just been too hard on his, and now he can't get the car stopped.
It was interesting after qualifying that we heard Vitaly Petrov and Nico Hulkenberg both talk about the problems with braking here. You did talk about it at the start of the race, Gareth, but you can only assume, like you say, after, what, 33 laps now, that they're really feeling it on setup. And
on tyres too, don't forget, we're on the soft compound this weekend, and the tyres really are way past their best. Hulkenberg at the front, as we see all season, he's still doing 32s. That's been the pace today. He's still banging in on the pace laps of mid-32s, but he's so good at looking after his tyres. Most other people, I mean, Petrov did a 32.9 just. Everybody else in the 33s and 34s.
Maldonado now coming under huge amounts of pressure from Zuba, Rigon, Kloss, all these drivers basically queuing up to have another bite at Pastor Maldonado. Again, into that first turn, absolutely awful there for Maldonado as he comes in. Best he can do is drive defensively. Won't keep back Zuba though, he's managed to find his way past.
Yeah, it's definitely, I'd say it's, I'd say braking is probably a good explanation for Maldonado's utter lack of pace.
Such a shame as well, because he showed some good form earlier on, even in that battle with Kloss, where the pair of them sort of had that clout, that coming together. He had some decent pace, and for him to be robbed of, I would agree with you, it certainly looks like brakes here. It would be a shame here at Portimao. Still better to come tomorrow. It's a good indication of what we can expect tomorrow, if conditions are similar. Yeah,
he's dropped out of the top 8 now, so he's actually in the worst position of 9th, which means no points. Well, no points first of all, but also it means he starts from 9th tomorrow.
On the grid, yes, absolutely.
One place more, he'll be starting from pole, so it's a fine line. But he's had a real tough season, and obviously being Hulkenberg's teammate, nobody really wants to be Hulkenberg's teammate. The guy's been utterly dominant. Maldonado came into GP2 this year with a good reputation. He'd won in GP2 previously. He was expected to be a front runner for the championship, and Hulkenberg's out-qualified him 10 times out of 10 and out-raced him 10 times out of 10 as well. He's been utterly dominant.
So rig on the head of Kloss. I'm going to just return to a story we touched on a little earlier with the PK and the buyout team. Gareth.
So this is back to our second, third and fourth. This is Filippi, De Grassi and Petrov, actually. This is our Filippi's dropped right back into De Grassi's clutches.
I will get you to talk about that. We'll do it at the end of the race. You're absolutely right, because Vitaly Petrov now, well, he's clearly searching for the finish here. He's got some pace that he feels he can make on Degrassi.
Yeah, I think Philippi is in trouble here. He was comfortably ahead of the guys behind him by 2 or 3 seconds, and suddenly in the last lap or two, the gap has shrunk right down to this.
2 laps to go. These 3 drivers have got a feeling it's going to. This is going to turn into a proper fight. You see, Petrov's car just absolutely sliding, skewing left to right as he was going up the hill.
He's just trying to get the power down. He's trying to get the power down as early as he can so he can get the run on Degrassi, but obviously he just got on too soon and just lit the rears up.
So on board with Vitaly Petrov, currently in 4th overall. Niko Hulkenberg has gone. He's cleared off. We can't even see him in this shot here. Ahead of Vitaly Petrov, who we're on board with, is Degrassi. Ahead of him is Felipe. Lock up there from Degrassi as he's trying to get him right for the penultimate corner. Petrov, look at the amount of work he's putting in through the steering wheel. Fantastic stuff from the Russian as he's coming down into the final corner. The track dips away. Your whole body compresses in the car as you're coming up. Then the big rise up onto the start-finish straight. There you go, looking for the slipstream, looking for the drivers in front. Petrov not close enough, but Degrassi just might be on Philippi. No, not at the end there.
No, Philippi's done the smart thing, actually. Nothing else matters, you know. Don't worry about how quick you are around the rest of the track. Look after the car, look after the tyres. What counts is being quick through that final turn onto the front straight. Because if you slow off there, then they'll just gobble you up with the slipstream. And Petrov really made the opposite mistake of the last key slow turn. He got onto the power too much too soon, got the car out of shape, and lost 2 or 3 lengths as he got sideways. And that stopped him from mounting an attack on Degrassi.
So coming in for the final time. Vitaly Petrov, a watching brief in 4th, and you've just got the impression that Petrov, obviously the last thing he wants to do is finish off the podium. Obviously he wants to get onto the podium, can make a top 3, but do you think he can do it round here, Gareth?
Well, it's difficult to say. I mean, it's obviously the last lap. They're all going hard at it. Degrassi's in the worst position of these two. He's got a car ahead, a car behind. He's busy in front and behind. You know, it's hard when you're fighting a battle on 2 fronts.
But do you see anywhere that?
Of course, yeah. I mean, but it's going to take a mistake. I think it's going to take either a mistake just from pressure or just a straightforward lack of concentration. But you can never rule it out. As you say, Petrov would love to finish the season on the podium, but then they all would.
Well, absolutely. yes, good point. Very well made, Gareth. But this is the race winner then. Hulkenberg crosses the line to take the checkered flag. That's his 6th win of the year. No problem there for him as he comes over, and Felipe will indeed take 2nd ahead of Degrassi on the Fat Burner Racing team, and 3rd place is Vitaly Petrov. So a great result there for Niko Hulkenberg. He is the champion. We knew that from Monza. He is also most likely to go on to a great Formula 1 drive next year, if the rumours are to be believed. And, well, he's done his account very well here at Portimao in the 1st race. So Hulkenberg has crossed the line ahead of Felipe, then Degrassi and Petrov, who, despite everything he was trying there at the end, wasn't to make it onto the podium. Then Rodriguez, Herc, Kobayashi. So Kobayashi did get ahead of Velsetti and keep it there. Then Zuber and Rigon. Zuber coming out better of the battle between him and Rigon. Then Kloss, who qualified in 2nd on the grid, but just couldn't make any better than 11th. But at the end of the day, it was this man, Niko Hulkenberg, who was our race winner at Portimao in the feature race. After 37 laps and after a fairly early getaway in this race, they didn't really see what way he went, and that really shows his class. What we've seen throughout the year, 6 wins now to Hulkenberg. It's a pretty masterful performance, Gareth.
Yeah, it's fitting that he should win the last feature race of the year, certainly. I mean, that was a superb performance, and as I said before, he's so good at getting out front and looking after his rubber. You know, right at the end there, he's still doing times that were only 3-4 tenths slower than when the rubber was on new. After the pit stop, everybody else had dropped off into the 33s. He's lapping a 2nd faster than anybody.
Astonishing performance there by Niko Hulkenberg in the art car. Now, if you're a team boss in Formula 1 and you were looking at this, you tend to, as is the case in all motorsport, Gareth, but you tend to look at times as well. I mean, the racing is the racing to a certain extent, but you look at times most predominantly at the end of a race. As you just said, the 33.5 there at the end of the race from Hulkenberg says a lot about the driver and his management of rubber, car, everything.
That's right, exactly. A sympathetic driver goes a long way, especially in a longer race. An F1 race, you know, can be up to 2 hours long. You need somebody who cares for the car, not some rock ape who's going to break the tyres, break the gearbox. It's all very well being fast, but it's not enough. You know, there are lots of drivers out there who are fast. You need to be someone who's got an intelligent brain.
You have to be appreciative of the vehicle around you and what it can do and work within those parameters. So Niko Hulkenberg, a man who is, like we say, looking forward to this. He did go out on the Williams car before, and well, that was a pretty poor outing for him in the previous life, Gareth. 3 laps, I think it was, and then he finished it. But I mean, he now has put himself back in the shop window, and you do that the best way you can by being fast.
Yeah, and that was some time ago, that incident,
Absolutely,
wasn't it? And I think he's a bit older and a bit wiser now. And I think Willy Webber has been massaging things behind the scenes, and he will get his chance, I'm sure, no question. But well done to Herc as well. I have to say, he finished 6th, which we haven't seen him get anything near that this year. So he does avoid the embarrassment of going a whole season without the team scoring points.
You have to say as well, Herc played the pit stop to the absolute letter. Okay, a bit fortunate perhaps when the safety car came out, but even if the safety car wasn't out, he played that very well, stayed out a lot longer than everybody else, managed to put in good times in the 32.4s, 32.5s, whilst Razia was dropping off. He was into the 34.3s, those who had yet to pit, and Herc managed to keep it very fast right up until the pit.
Yeah, well, I'm amazed. I mean, like Kobayashi, where did it come from? Because for the most part of this year, we've seen neither of those two guys really featuring, and suddenly Kobayashi was super racy, and Herc picks up points.
Absolutely, as does this man Niko Hulkenberg. Yeah, trying to rally up the pit lane. There aren't too many people here. Yeah, the crowd of 3 men and a dog who've turned out to Portimao to watch this. But Niko Hulkenberg at least doing what he can with his team around there. He's having to call the team up. You'd have thought they'd been waiting there in Parc Fermé for him already, wouldn't you? Yeah, come on guys, come and join us. We have just one, and oh, here they are at last. They must have been popping the champagne in the garage before Nico pulled in. But a good result, a good performance by Hulkenberg. The future is definitely looking bright for this lad, and we will soon see him in Formula 1. Great for Filippi as well, and De Grassi.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, Tony, where the other drivers go around him, Filippi, De Grassi, Petrov, Rodriguez. Difficult to say, isn't it? I mean, most of those guys have been in GP2 for some time, so time to move on, but to where?
Well, as we said, the changes in Formula 1, the teams that are supposed to be coming in and are sitting there, if finances can be found, you know, there are seats now. You have to question whether some of the drivers who are currently in there are going to be staying there. Probably not. The younger drivers who are showing well in GP2. As you said, quite rightly so, we've seen Rosberg, we've seen Hamilton, now we're seeing Hulkenberg, who's really come of age in here, and he's going out as well onto the Formula 1 stage. See there further down the field, PKGP, Valerio, he had a DNF in this race, which leads me on nicely to the story I've been trying to ask you about for about an hour now, Gareth, and you've been manfully avoiding it. You're not going to be able to now. No, you're not going to be able to now. The PK team, there was some talk about them maybe taking over the Peter Sauber outlook. Any news on that we've heard at the moment?
Not to my knowledge. I'm flattered you think I would be on the inside to know these things, Tony. No,
just another Brazilian team out there. It would be great to see it. So this was Niko Hulkenberg there, who crosses the line. His team, well, they may have been applauding him as he crossed the line, but they soon forgot they had to get back down to Parc Fermé to cheer their man as he got out of the car. But not to worry. It was Hulkenberg's race at the end of the day. A great way to start in the feature race for tomorrow, because he'll be down on the 8th place on the grid as the winner. The top 8 from this race then get reversed around. That gives us our pole position man, who will be Valsecchi, the man we've seen put his front tyre into the dirt several times already this race. Let's hope he doesn't do that tomorrow whilst he's trying to get off the line. Nobody could argue with Niko Hulkenberg, though, out here at Portimao.
The other result of note is that ART have just wrapped up the team's title as well with that result. So reward for them for a hard season.
Very much. Niko Hulkenberg getting rather more applause this time than he did when he got out of the car. Now he has rallied the troops below him to take the first podium here at Portimao. Alongside him we have Felipe and then De Grassi, who finished in 3rd. Everything just sort of finished rather quickly, which was fine from Niko Hulkenberg. He doesn't care. He's the race winner here. We'll see you tomorrow for the sprint race from Portimao, but from everyone here, thanks for watching. Bye for now.